welcome back to my channel and to the first episode of a new series that should be going on for forever, for a really long time at least. So basically, I made an update video recently that I'm going to link right now, as well as in the description, that you can go check out for a longer explanation of this. But I've obviously been making gaming videos for a while, and I'm still going to make them. But I've been really into anime and manga recently, and that's been kind of on my mind. And I thought, it might be a cool idea to make an ASMR video about that, because I don't really see much ASMR anime like discussion on YouTube. So I think that would be cool to kind of start doing that if people are interested, and I'm curious to how this is received. So yeah, I mean, the quick explanation is basically I never really watched anime ever. I didn't watch Pokemon, I didn't watch Dragon Ball, anything. I never watched anime. I mostly just watched live action shows and movies, and a lot of gaming, obviously. My channel has mostly been games so far. And last year, my girlfriend introduced me to Avatar, and I fell in love with it. And I looked up online things like Avatar, and I found Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which I want to be reviewing today. And we didn't watch it for like 8 months or so, and then we watched it we started a couple months ago, and we just finished it about 2 months ago. And ever since then, we've both been super interested in watching more anime, and now I'm reading manga as well. We're watching shows separate from each other as well. So we're watching stuff together and apart, because we both have our own tastes and stuff. And that's the gist of it. And I really wanted to make a video about it. Like I said, if you want a longer explanation, like a 20-minute kind of journey into why I started watching anime, you can check out the video link below. Without further ado, let me start my review ramble. Just to clarify, I mean, this is mostly going to be a ramble. I have basically some kind of format that hopefully on the screen. Right now I'm just recording audio, but I'm going to edit it in a way where you can kind of see on the side like what section I'm in, like what I'm talking about at that point. And yeah, I have some semblance of like a structure for this, like how it's gonna kind of go, how kind of flow, but a lot of it's gonna be rambling, because I just want it to be a kind of discussion, and I'm gonna see how it goes. If I feel like I need to add more structure in the future, I will, but I'm gonna try this out for now. And please let me know in the comments, obviously, if I said enough. If I say too little or I say too much, I don't care. I'm just gonna see how it goes, and then I'll adjust as time goes on. If I feel like I need to add another section or something, or remove a section, I'll do that. But these are sections now. So first off, I'm gonna say is, why did I watch this? So I watched this, like I said, because I was really interested in something like Avatar, an adventure animated thing, and the biggest one I heard about was Fullmetal Brotherhood, specifically. And for a while, it was on our list of things to watch, and I think we watched a lot of live action stuff recently, and we're like, let's try something different. We haven't tried animation. We haven't tried anime before. Neither of us have ever watched anime. Like that'd be kind of fun to do that. So that's pretty much why. Why I watch this will be more interesting with the other shows that I do. And then as a reminder, or as a basically to clarify, I watched the English dub of this. So me and my girlfriend mostly watch dubs with each other. It's easier because our dog is walking around, and it's easier to we can look away and still hear the dialogue. We have been watching subs together recently, but we're trying to look mostly for like good dubs, and then separately we'll watch subbed anime. And then yeah, that should be it. And yeah, I have to clarify again. I mean, this is basically the first anime I ever watched and finished. And after this, I've watched a lot in the past 2 months. A lot. I mean, especially in the past month, I've watched a lot. And I'm gonna be making a video or review ramble about every one of them. And I'm just gonna try to catch up, because going through this structure, I realized I forgot stuff about the show. So it'll be good if I made these videos right after which that's the plan. I want to make these right after I finish a show, because then I'll be the most passionate about it and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna try to catch up and make as many of these as I can. all the shows that I've finished. So I'm only going to make these with the shows. Well, mostly I'm going to be making these for the shows that I've actually finished, or if I'm watching an anime that hasn't finished yet, I'll do the season in review or whatever, and we'll get into that later. But for this one, it's Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is already done. It's completed, so I'm just covering this. I have not read the manga, by the way. Alright, so summary of the show. So I wanted to give this summary, the pros and cons. These are all going to be spoiler free. I'm not going to get into spoilers until after that. Just because if someone wants to watch, they're actually interested in learning about the show, I might as well just keep it spoiler free. And I'll try to kind of go through this pretty quickly. And then obviously if you've seen the show, you can probably understand what parts I'm talking about if I'm kind of referring, but I'm going to really try to not spoil anything at all. I mean, here's the thing, even talking about a show and introducing like the main character, in my opinion, is a spoiler, so I just never listen to anything. I just watch something. So if you really don't want to spoil, just don't listen to anything. But I'm not going to spoil plot points or like even things that happen early on. I'm really just going to try to we'll see how this goes. It's spoiler free though. So basically this world has alchemy in it. So alchemy is the law of equivalent exchange. So basically like you can take something and turn it into that, but you can't lose anything in the process. It's basically, let's say if a hunk of metal, you can basically turn it into a sword, but you can't make, it's that metal you're turning into a sword. So as long as you know the material, you can change it into something. So in the show, like in the action scenes, there'll be a lot of like, you go on to like rock, and then you'll launch up and this big chunk of rock will hit someone. So it's kind of the idea of alchemy, and in this world, alchemy is used for different ways, different reasons. But the main way in the era that we're in, and we start off in the show, it's been militarized, so it's mainly used for just combat. And this world that we're in, this location, this city that we start in, has a military with alchemists in it that use it as a weapon. So we follow these two characters named Ed and Al Elric. And a quick thing about them, so they did a taboo thing when they were kids. They're pretty young, I think. If I remember that correctly, they're 15 and 14 in the show. I don't remember exactly. But years prior, they did a bad thing that was against the law of like how you're supposed to do alchemy. And I'm not going to say what that was. And in the process, this is a semi-spoiler for the beginning of the show, but it's the whole goal, so it's not really a spoiler. Al, Ed's younger brother, lost his body. He basically died. He lost his whole body. In the last-ditch effort to save him, Ed did a taboo of using his body and actually binded Al's soul to a suit of armor. And in the process, he had to give something to get something back, so he gave one of his legs and one of his arms to allow his brother to live on in this suit of armor because he lost his body. So this horrible traumatic event happens. There's more to it, obviously. Causes them, their main goal is to get their bodies back. They go on this journey to find their bodies, to see how is that even possible. Is that possible? And then basically that's this main goal, this main two characters. But along the way, you get introduced to a ton of different characters, and they get those characters and they pull them into this world of politics and corruption and conspiracy, and things end up a lot bigger than they might have assumed in the end, and they play a bigger role than they maybe intended for. So that's it. I mean, that's all I'm going to say as a summary of the show. It's an action comedy, has amazing world building. Or I haven't gotten to pros and cons yet, so it's world building, and it deals a lot. I mean, there's moments where it's actually pretty scary. I wouldn't say it's like horror, but it definitely like thriller and some messed up moments and some sad moments. It kind of has everything. It's one of those just like action adventure, kind of does everything. Alright, so on to pros and cons. So these are going to still stay spoiler free. So as far as pros, not all of the pros and cons are going to be on the same level. Some of them might be nitpicks, and I'll get into that. As far as a big pro, the biggest pro, I think, in my opinion, is the last, I would say, third of the show. So the show has 64 episodes. So the last 20 or so episodes are perfect. And I really mean, like, they're perfect. There's not much that happens that I don't like in this last chunk of the show. Without getting into what it's about, it's amazing. Every character's arc and who they are gets wrapped up. Every story point gets wrapped up. And the best moments of the show are in that. And you'll see that later on when I go into my favorite scenes and stuff. Another pro has great characters, has amazing cast. So I watched the English dub, and the acting is amazing. I mean, it has great. I mean, Troy Baker's in it. Travis Willingham is Mustang. Mustang is a character you meet. I won't go into who he is, but and then Laura Bailey is another character, and there's obviously a lot great. I mean, there's way more characters. I just realized that recently. I heard about it, and that's on the top of my mind that they were even in that way back then. But besides the acting, I mean, it's, in my opinion, to make a good story, a good show or a movie, you need to have a good cast of characters that, and this is important, that they have their own motivations, their own goals. If you have a character that doesn't have a goal or motivation, they're kind of just like a husk, like there's no real, like, you really need that in order for you to care about them. And it's like, it's honestly, if you have a characters that all have their own goal, all have their own motivation, then building their relationships together is just like, it's such a joy to watch. And it's also easier to do because you can think about how that character would react a certain way. And this show does it perfectly. I mean, the way the relationships form based on how the characters have been built up so far is so amazing. So that's like my third pro is kind of, I think this whole show is like, it's like a piece of music. It's poetic. Everything wraps up. Everything that they built up in the beginning of the show ends in the best way I can possibly think. I really have no issues at all with how things end in this show. Seriously, Avatar is my favorite show of all time right now. And even I have problems. I have two big issues with the way that show ends. Even though I loved the ending, I have issues with it. I don't have any issues with the way Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood ends. Like I said, it's poetic, and I'll get into why it's poetic, but man, it's one of those things where it ends, and certain story points end, and it's like chef's kiss. Like, that was amazing. And you get chills. You just get chills because all I can think of is I think it's mangaka, the person that writes mangas. All I can think of how much of a genius she is, that she was able to write this story and just end it so beautifully. It's poetic, it really is. Like, this whole idea of how alchemy fits into the world and the characters in the story is just awesome. So yeah, those are my pros. On the cons, I have 3 cons. And there's one big one and 2 small ones. So the biggest problem I find with this show, and a lot of people have said this, I think, is, I felt this, the first half, I would say the first 3 episodes, I didn't care about it at all. And typically, I'll stop watching a show if a show isn't interesting me, but it was obviously interesting enough for me to keep going. It wasn't bad in any sense of the word. It was good, but I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about the story. I felt like I was being taken out of it at times, and I'll get into why that happens. But it was boring, to be honest. I really didn't find the first, I would say, 30 episodes I think they weren't as enjoyable as I wanted them to be, looking back on it. Like I said, they're not bad, and they're actually needed. I think the big thing to think of I don't think the ending, like this is the last third, is perfect. It wouldn't be as perfect as it was without the first half of the show. No matter how bored I might have felt watching it, I'm glad all that stuff was there. It still is good. I think just comparing it to the end, I think if the ending was just fine, I probably would view the whole show as equal and just like a really good show. But because the end is so perfect, I have to criticize the first half of just not being as exciting, and not really hooking me at all. The only reason I kept watching is because we were watching, me and my girlfriend watching it together, and it was something that we watched like an episode or two a day for like a month or two. And not, I guess not every day, every couple days we watched an episode. And then yeah, once we got to episode 30, man, it was like lightning speed. We had to watch like 4 or 5 episodes a day. Yeah, like I said, it's not bad. I don't intend this to be a turn off of the show. And you'll see at the end like my final like review, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it didn't hook me as much as I could. So I guess going into why that happened. So a big reason that I feel like it didn't really grasp me in the beginning is I couldn't grasp the tone it was trying to go for. So the show has a lot of like serious monologues, like inner monologues and outward monologues, and all anime does, that I've figured out. But Ed has these like serious monologues, and I just remember these a couple moments where I was taken out of the show because it seemed too serious for how early it was, where it was trying to be so funny and so comedic, but then would have these really serious like monologues and moments, and even if they would be good on their own, mashing them together like I said, it takes me out of it. I truly wish it was just more comedic in the beginning and stayed comedic and then slowly got serious for the end. As the 64 episodes went, it just started more comedic and then got serious. Because I don't know, this mashup in the beginning of like, Ed is this like super like funny and like I gets angry as him, I don't want to go into the characters too much, but Ed is I guess that's not a super spoiler, but he's hot-headed at some points, and he gets hot-headed, and then he's like kind of a joke, and he makes jokes and laughs, but then he gets really deep. And believe me, people can do this in real life. It's not unrealistic for someone to be like this, but for a show needs to get you to like and understand the character as quick as possible. That's the point, is you want to be able to almost predict what the character is going to do. And unpredictability is a feature of predictability. You can have a character, like people reference, I'm trying to think of a good example of an anime that I've seen. Oh no, I won't do that yet. I guess the one people always reference is like the idea of the Joker. And like Joker as a character is unpredictable, but because he's unpredictable, it's predictable, and that's why he's a good character, because you know he's going to do something that you're not expecting. With Ed, he's not fully that. He's a good guy, but the constant tonal shift between like very funny and so deep, like like 4th grader deep, like talking at sleepovers kind of thing, I think it just took me out of it. And it could be a personal opinion, no one else feels this way, but I think there was just a lot of moments in the beginning where I didn't feel like the humor and the seriousness, they feel like they clashed a lot. And I think around episode 30, it started to feel more natural, and the comedy felt more natural, and it was still funny until the end, but the seriousness, they didn't get in the way of each other. And I don't know how they did it, and I want to go back and watch the series again to see why, but I felt for like a long time that, yeah, I don't know, they didn't mesh well in the beginning, and it was hard for me to really care about these characters because of that. And then the last con, I would say, I have a small con about like, it's whatever, it's a stupid comment, but the last con is, along with these, like the first half, is they introduced so many characters so fast. So there's a bunch of new characters, and there's a whole section. I would say it's not spelled like the military. There's a military group, and everyone that has to do with like the government and the military and the generals. There's so many of them, and I had a really, really hard time of keeping track of who was who. And I think in that time, I would have rather just wanted to learn about Ed and Al first and to really get in their heads. Because I think if I was able to like really start caring about Ed and Al early, then I'd be way more willing to start being introduced to new characters, knowing that I can always go back to Ed and Al's story, which I'm really invested in. But I wasn't invested in their story, and they were introducing it to the new characters, and by the end, I loved the whole cast. So it's not like I said, this isn't like a huge con. This whole first half, I don't want to spoil my review at the end, but this doesn't impact the show a ton, in my opinion, a ton. Because the ending is so amazing, and all the building it does for the end is worth it in the end. But yeah, just a lot of the characters, and they didn't really have personalities that I really cared for, and believe me, and I want to clarify, there are plenty of episodes and plenty of moments in this first 30 episodes that are incredible. I think it's episode like 16, 17. There's a certain showdown between two people, and the animation and the meaning behind it and stuff is amazing. It's as perfect as the end. There are perfect moments in the show in those first 30 episodes, but they're surrounded by, I just think, a lot of forgettable stuff, in my opinion. Yeah, I'll move on from cons, because I'll just get into spoiler territory. Alright, so next up will be all spoilers, so pretty much from here on out I'm going to be spoiling things. And I have a section right now that's going to be like favorite scenes and ideas, and then memorable characters. And I have no idea if it's going to stay there, because it's kind of blended in a way, but I wanted to split it up somehow. Alright, so this is full spoilers warning. Spoilers ahead. Okay. Alright, so like I mentioned before, this show is amazing. I'll give my final review at the end, but I clearly really love this show a lot. But I want to get into like favorite scenes, so I have a couple written down. I'm just gonna kind of mention them and say the why I like them. So this is a huge spoiler. Like I said, I'm starting off with big ones. I think my favorite moment, my favorite scene in the show is Hohenheim's death. Hohenheim is an amazing character. The way that he's introduced as almost like this villain antagonist that you don't like because you side with Ed and Al. And slowly you learn about him, and you slowly learn about how he is immortal and why he became immortal, and how he wanted to put his immortality to good use. And he met this girl that he loved, and he didn't want to be a monster to his kids and his family, and like that, like a twist that happens very slowly of just, you start off not liking him at all, and then you end up, I loved him. He's my favorite character. His death at the grave is so amazing. I have a quote here. I have some quotes. But man, I know something is good when I can go back to it and watch it over and over again. And every time, even the 10th time, 15th, 20th, 30th time I watch it, it makes me tear up. But when he says, this is a quote, is, but believe it or not, I actually want to keep on living. I guess I'm pretty hopeless, aren't I, Trisha? Oh, this idea that he's immortal, and he's been, I don't know, it's been such a hard thing in his life that he can't die. He's watching people, this is the whole problem with immortality, he's watching people that he loves grow up and die around him, and he can't do anything about it, and get old around him. And in this moment where he truly feels fulfilled, he's done his purpose. Both of his sons have called him father, and he feels like he's reached a point where he should die. And he's just like, believe it or not, I want to keep on living, because all that was worth it, and he really is happy in the end. And he dies with a smile on his face. Whew, man, that is so awesome. like I said, my favorite things in any story is characters. I love characters that have a purpose and development and that grow and have flaws. Especially characters that have flaws and can grow with them too. And characters that can keep their flaws. I think it's important that people have flaws, and it's fine to have flaws, but to acknowledge them and to grow even a little bit is important. I love. Oh, he's such an amazing character. He's so awesome. I love that moment. That scene is so great. So yeah, like I said, I'm already getting into like blending characters and scenes. So I don't know. We'll see how I format this in the future. Another favorite scene. I think I'm gonna combine them. This is just my favorite moments, I guess, because I'm gonna do the same thing again. So Greedling is probably like tied with Hona as like my favorite. Oh, no, Greedling my favorite character. Greed and Ling together basically, but I think Hona probably takes the top spot just because he was there from, he doesn't change like Ling and Greed apart. I liked, but them together is, and you can't put two against one. So, but Greedling is awesome. This idea of basically battling within your mind and the visual representation of this sin, this greed sin, being true to who Ling is already and how they actually fight is beautiful. Like I said, it's poetic. But his death and his little quote where he goes, and it's the English dub, but he goes later when he's splitting up from Ling is so cool, and their whole growth, and Ling learning so much about himself and what he really wants to do, and how he helps Mei in the end, or Mai. I forget if it was Mei or Mai. When he wants that growth he has, and Greed's basically sacrifice and saying like, hey, Greed, you want everything, and in the end he actually got everything he wanted. All he's wanted is friends to support him, and he had that in the end. And it's, like I said, it's amazing. It's a character that has clear goals. Both of them have clear goals. Together they have clear goals, and they're able to meet them. You don't always have to meet them, but in this case they did, and it ended up being really impactful. Next favorite, I guess, scene / character, I would say Mustang and Hawkeye together. I don't think you would have Mustang without Hawkeye. I think they're both equally important to each other. And just like one of my favorite moments, I think both of his flame alchemy when he was going against lust and envy, both of those scenes like together. When he does against lust, it's the first moment in the show for me that really stuck out, and that's one of the moments that is like, it's perfection. It's so good. It's epic, and like holy shit, what's happening right now? But it's made even better by the end when he's doing the same thing to Envy, because Envy killed his best friend, and just the idea of Hawkeye bringing him from that because of their history together, and her father and him learning flame alchemy, all that is so great. And the twists that go back and forth of Envy pretending to be Hawkeye or pretending to be Mustang, but you think she's going to be Hawkeye, and you think Mustang's going to kill Hawkeye. All that stuff is so awesome. But yeah, I mean, that moment, that whole showdown of him not being able to turn into a monster because a monster can't lead a country. He can't turn into the thing that he hates. Is a classic like trope, but it's done so well. And I think tropes are awesome, especially when they're done well. I think tropes are the idea of a trope has a bad rap, because I think tropes lead to the best moments in series. If you do them well, there's a reason they're known, because they work. So this idea of a character that's been struggling and pushing forward to make this, he feels like a monster. That he wiped out this this culture, these people, this race, and he was a part of that, and wanting to make the country a better place. And in the end, he's becoming a monster again. He's killing this homunculus, Envy, and being merciless, and Scar and has to do, or he's pressured into doing human transmutation. He doesn't do it in the end. And Mai helps him out, but like, that's so, and their characters are awesome. Definitely, I would say, beneath Hohenheim and Griethling, I would say Mustang / Hawkeye, because I think they need to be together. They wouldn't work separate, I think, in this story. And I guess, one less character, I guess, to just, I would say Al. I mean, I obviously, I love a lot of characters in this. I love Scar. I love Olivia Armstrong. I love Ed and Al. All the homunculus are great. But I wanted to give like my top. But I can't not say Al. I think Al would be like my fourth favorite. His arc is really great, but I think just it really made him have an impact on me. That sacrifice he does for Ed in the end to bring his arm back. Such a great scene. He was built up as this person that wants to keep on protecting people, and into him to give his own life. Just like Ed gave up his arm and leg. But like just he gives up his own life to or basically his body at that point, his metal body, to save Ed, I think is such a great stuff. And then right after that, oh my gosh, their father offering up his life and Ed refusing it. Oh. And then Ed calling him father for the first time. It's so great. I'm just gushing about this now. But yeah, I wanted to mention Al as my fourth favorite character, I'd say, because obviously he's great. He's actually my wallpaper. One of my wallpaper. I have like a cycling wallpaper on my computer. And the last thing I'll say, is like my favorite, I guess, like a scene idea. And this to kind of finish off this little review ramble is, I absolutely adore the idea of, because a story is also really good when it can have some kind of impact on your life, or in this one clearly has a lesson from it. Not everything needs a lesson, of course not, but this one does have a lesson in my opinion, and it's a great one. It's something that it kind of catches you off guard. I wasn't really thinking about it as I was watching it, but in the end it makes so much sense. It makes everything so much better. But this idea that growing as a person needs pain. You can't have growth without pain. Because you can't gain anything without losing something first. And that's the idea behind alchemy. And just the idea of alchemy, of you need to use something to make something else. You won't, you're gonna lose something in the process, basically. And tying that idea of alchemy, an equivalent exchange towards life and character growth, and passion, and like doing what your motivation is doing, getting to your goal, is so great. And like I said, in the end, it doesn't even hit you until the end. And Ed's final quote, which is like my second favorite quote of the whole thing, is so great. He's like, for example, like you can't learn a new skill. Like if you want to learn how to skateboard, you can't learn how to skateboard without losing time, without, slamming on your face and losing skin, losing blood, losing money, buying a skateboard. Like everything requires some kind of pain. But if you can get through that, and that's where this quote comes into the quote, and I'll say that the quote is, "There's no such thing as a painless lesson. They just don't exist. Sacrifices are necessary. You can't gain anything without losing something first. Although if you can endure that pain and walk away from it, you'll find that you now have a heart strong enough to overcome any obstacle." Yeah, a heart fate. I messed it up. Yeah, a heart made full metal. What a great quote. That ends the show. It's corny and everything, but I love it to death. It's such an amazing. I love this. The ending line of Heart Made Full Metal just ties everything together like a perfect little bow. It's great. So my gushing is over. I'll stop gushing. It's been 35 minutes at this point. My final review. So I think you can probably tell I love this show. So how I'm gonna do reviews for these shows. I'm not gonna rank it out of 10 or anything. I don't normally like just putting numbers to things. I do rank it on my anime list online, but I just do it. I'm makes sense, great. If it doesn't, please let me know. I can like change this, but I'm just gonna have this. It's gonna be 3 options. Don't watch it. Watch it if it interests you, and you have to watch it no matter what. So for this show, I would give it, you have to watch it no matter what. This show is amazing. Even though, like I said, the first half didn't grasp me, and I think it can be really boring at times. It is 100% worth it for how the show ends. And the conclusion to all these things that you've watched it's really something to behold. It's amazing, and it is really great. And there's a reason why it's like the #1 rated on myanimelist.com. Or is it .net? I forget. .net. myanimelist.net. Yeah, so I mean, this show, and that's pretty much that's the end of the review, but in this show, basically, it caused me and my girlfriend to be like, we have to watch more. I had no interest in anime before this, and I only watched it because I was interested in something that was like Avatar, like an action adventure. But when it ended, I was like, I love the idea. I love the corniness. I love the idea of people having monologues in their heads. It's like you're reading a book. You get to see inside their head. You never get that in live action as much. The idea of animation and like how much emotion they can get across someone's face, and the impact, the more impact they can get by doing animation, just brings so much more creative freedom to the table. In the pacing, and you can just really have fast pacing because you don't have to worry about a ton of like live action stuff. I fell in love with animation. I fell in love with anime while watching this, and it kind of just exploded. And now we've watched a lot. So yeah, that's the end of this review. I figured I'd tease the next one if you watch the full thing. So the next anime that we watched, I'm not gonna give my thoughts on it yet. I'll wait for the review. But basically, we watched this show, and the next one we watched is Madoka Magica. So we watched or is it Madoka Magica? Oh, by the way, I'm really, really terrible with Japanese names, and I'm still trying to get better at it. So bear with me in these reviews. I'm going to try my best to pronounce these. I never remember if it was Madoka or Madoka. It sounded like everyone in the show said Madoka. So that's how I said it, not just Madoka Magica. We watched the show,